3 words, the most famous opening in American literature. Call me Ishmael. In episode 12, we explored how Moby Dick failed in 1851 and rose from the dead to become a masterpiece. Today, we're going inside the book itself. This is the story Herman Melville told. This is The White Whale. The novel begins with a confession. Whenever I find myself growing grim about the mouth, whenever it is a damp, drizzly November in my soul, whenever I find myself involuntarily pausing before coffin warehouses and bringing up the rear of every funeral I meet, then I account it high time to get to sea as soon as I can. Our narrator doesn't just feel sad, he wallows in it. Wallow, to indulge in an emotion or situation with abandon. To wallow means to sink into something, to let it surround you completely. Ishmael wallows in melancholy until he can't take it anymore. His cure, whaling. Ishmael travels to New Bedford, Massachusetts, seeking passage to Nantucket. At the Spouter Inn, the only available bed requires sharing with a stranger. That stranger terrifies him. Queequeg is a Polynesian harpooner, covered in tattoos, carrying a shrunken head, worshipping a small wooden idol. He looks nothing like anyone Ishmael has ever met. But here's where the novel does something remarkable. Despite his trepidation, his initial fear and anxiety, Ishmael discovers something unexpected. Trepidation, a feeling of fear or anxiety about something. Queequeg is the most amicable person Ishmael has ever met. Amicable, characterized by goodwill, friendly, and peaceable. This supposed savage is honest, brave, loyal, and serene. The two become instant friends, what Ishmael calls bosom companions. Queequeg declares them married according to his custom. This friendship will matter at the end, remember it. In Nantucket, they choose a ship called the Pequod, decorated with whalebone and whale teeth. Its captain remains hidden in his cabin. For days after sailing, Captain Ahab doesn't appear. The crew whispers. Rumors create clamor below decks. Clamor, a loud and confused noise, a strong, persistent demand. From the Latin clamare, meaning to cry out, clamor describes noise with urgency. A crowd can clamor for justice. Sailors can clamor for answers. The ship was rife with clamor about its mysterious captain. This root appears in exclaim, to cry out, proclaim, to cry forth publicly, acclaim, to shout approval, and declaim, to speak loudly and rhetorically. When Ahab finally emerges, Ishmael sees a man of 60 with a face like weathered granite. A white scar runs down his cheek and neck like a lightning bolt. His leg has been replaced by a prosthetic made from a sperm whale's jawbone. Ahab is formidable. He commands attention without speaking. Then he gathers the crew and makes his purpose clear. He nails a gold Spanish doubloon to the main mast. Whoever first spots a white whale with a wrinkled brow, a crooked jaw, and 3 holes punctured in his fin wins the gold. That whale is Moby Dick, and Ahab wants him dead. His first mate Starbuck protests. They've been hired to hunt whales for oil, not to chase one specific animal across the ocean. Vengeance on a dumb brute. That's madness. Ahab's response is one of literature's most eloquent speeches. He tasks me, he heaps me. I see in him outrageous strength with an inscrutable malice sinewing it. That inscrutable thing is chiefly what I hate. And be the white whale agent, or be the white whale principal, I will wreak that hate upon him. Starbuck calls this blasphemy. Ahab's reply, talk not to me of blasphemy, man. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me. This is a man consumed by antipathy, a deep-rooted hatred that defines his entire existence. Antipathy, a deep-seated feeling of dislike or aversion. From the Greek anti meaning against, and pathos meaning feeling, antipathy describes emotions that push against something. It's stronger than dislike. Antipathy is visceral rejection. This root gives us sympathy, feeling with someone, empathy, feeling into their experience, apathy, feeling nothing, and pathetic, evoking feeling. Ahab's antipathy has become his entire identity. He doesn't merely hate Moby Dick, he has become his hatred. But what exactly happened between them? On a previous voyage, Ahab lowered for Moby Dick. The white whale turned on the boats and, in Ahab's own words, reaped away his leg. The captain was left mutilated in the sea, rescued by his crew, driven mad during the arduous journey home. Arduous, requiring great effort, difficult and exhausting. That arduous recovery changed him. Something broke. Or maybe something was revealed that had always been there. Now he makes the crew cross their harpoons and swear an oath. They will hunt Moby Dick across every ocean. They will not return until the white whale is dead, or they are. Starbuck sees the doom coming. He is the dauntless mate who keeps the ship running, the voice of reason against Ahab's madness. But even his courage cannot stop what's been set in motion. "My soul is more than matched," Starbuck confesses. "She's overmanned, and by a madman. The voyage becomes relentless." Month after month, the Pequod sails from the Atlantic around the Cape of Good Hope, through the Indian Ocean, into the Pacific. Ahab stops at other ships only to ask one question: "Hast thou seen the white whale?" Each answer brings more warnings. The Jeroboam warns that Moby Dick has supernatural power. Their mate died chasing him. The Samuel Enderby's captain lost his arm to the whale, but bears no grudge. Ahab thinks him a coward. The Rachel searches desperately for a lost whaleboat. Last seen pursuing Moby Dick, the captain's son was aboard. They never find him. These encounters should give anyone pause. But Ahab is oblivious to reason. Oblivious, not aware of or concerned about what is happening. The warnings are blatant. Every ship they meet has a horror story, but Ahab hears only confirmation. Blatant, completely lacking in subtlety. Obvious. His hatred is inveterate, so deeply rooted by habit that nothing can dislodge it. Inveterate, firmly established by long practice, habitual, from the Latin inveterare, meaning to make old. Inveterate describes patterns so ingrained they've become permanent. An inveterate liar has lied so long they've forgotten how to tell truth. Ahab's inveterate obsession has consumed his entire being. Inveterate, inveterare, Latin, to make old, gives veterate, inveterate. Meanwhile, the crew hunts other whales. Melville shows us the brutal, arduous work of 19th century whaling. The chase, the kill, the rendering of blubber into oil. These chapters are erudite, packed with scientific detail about whale anatomy and behavior. Melville wanted to write the definitive book about whales and the definitive book about the human soul. He achieved both. And throughout, one character watches everything. Queequeg, the friend from the spouter, in The Amicable Harpooner, who sleeps beside Ishmael and treats him with more respect than any Christian he's met. Queequeg falls gravely ill during the voyage, so ill that he has a coffin made. He climbs inside to check the fit. Then he lies down, ready to die. And then, mysteriously, he simply decides not to. He remembered, he says, a little duty left undone on shore. He rises from the coffin. He recovers. The coffin is caulked and sealed to become the ship's new life buoy. Remember the coffin. It matters at the end, 15 words. Lock them in. Wallow, to sink into something with abandon. Trepidation, a feeling of fear or anxiety. Amicable, friendly, and peaceable. Clamor, a loud and confused noise, a persistent demand, from Latin, to cry out. Antipathy, deep-seated dislike or aversion, from Greek, against feeling. Arduous, requiring great effort, exhausting. Oblivious, not aware of what's happening around you. Blatant, completely obvious, lacking subtlety. Inveterate, firmly established by long habit. Plus 6, you already know. Formidable, eloquent, dauntless, relentless, erudite, and the whale himself, enigmatic. I'd strike the sun if it insulted me. Captain Ahab has set his course. In Part 2, we followed the chase to its inevitable end. In Part 1, we met Ishmael and Queequeg. We saw Captain Ahab nail a gold coin to the mast and swear vengeance on Moby Dick. We watched the Pequod sail through warnings toward its fate. Now we face the whale itself. Why is the whale white? And why does that matter? Melville devotes an entire chapter to this question. The whiteness of the whale is the most profound meditation in the novel. White should mean purity, innocence, peace. But Ishmael argues that whiteness is also terrifying. Is it that by its indefiniteness, it shadows forth the heartless voids and immensities of the universe, and thus stabs us from behind with the thought of annihilation when beholding the white depths of the Milky Way? To comprehend the whale, you must understand that white means absence. White is blank. White is void. White is the color of things waiting to be filled with meaning. Moby Dick is white because he reflects whatever you project onto him. Ahab sees evil. Ishmael sees mystery. Starbuck sees nature, indifferent and unconquerable. The whale is inscrutable, which means he can never be fully comprehended. Some readers find this frustrating. Melville's writing is undeniably prolix, sprawling across hundreds of pages with tortuous digressions. Yes, there are entire chapters about whale anatomy. Yes, the plot disappears for 50 pages at a time. The path Melville takes is tortuous by design. But within those digressions, he hides pervasive themes about obsession, fate, and what happens when one man's will bends an entire world to destruction. Let's talk about fate. Early in the voyage, a strange prophet named Elijah warns Ishmael about Ahab. The warnings are cryptic but ominous. Death follows this ship. Ahab knows. He even says so. What I've dared, I've willed, and what I've willed, I'll do. He insists on choosing his fate even when he knows the choice is fatal. This is the terrible freedom Melville explores. You can will your own destruction, nobody can stop you. The crew follows Ahab. Why? Because his charisma overwhelms their judgment. Because refusing seems impossible. Because they've already come too far to turn back. Starbuck alone sees clearly. He even stands outside Ahab's cabin with a musket, debating whether to kill the captain and save the crew. He can't do it. Is heaven a murderer when its lightning strikes a would-be murderer in his bed? And would I be a murderer then? If he lowers the gun, he walks away. He knows what's coming and does nothing. This is the stolid tragedy of the novel. People watch disaster approach and cannot stop it. Starbuck is stolid. He does his duty. He keeps the ship running. But duty alone cannot prevent catastrophe. Finally, in the Pacific, Ahab spots the whale himself. There she blows, a hump like a snow hill. It is Moby Dick. The chase lasts 3 days. 3 chapters, the climax of the entire novel. Day 1. Ahab lowers with 3 boats. The crew rows toward the white whale, and Moby Dick turns. The whale bites Ahab's boat in 2. Fedallah, Ahab's mysterious harpooner, disappears beneath the waves. Ahab survives. His hatred survives. He rows back to the Pequod and prepares for day 2. Day 2, they lower again. This time, Moby Dick tangles all 3 boats together with his massive body, like a spider webbing flies. Ahab's ivory leg snaps, and they find Fedallah dead, tangled in harpoon lines wound around the whale's body. This fulfills Fedallah's prophecy. He said he would die before Ahab. He said Ahab could only be killed by hemp. He said Ahab would see 2 hearses before he died, and one would not be made by mortal hands. The whale carrying a dead man is the first hearse. The ship is the second. Ahab knows, and still he prepares for day 3. This is inevitable. Ahab delivers his final speech, one of the most truculent declarations in literature. Towards the eye roll, thou all-destroying but unconquering whale. To the last I grapple with thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee. From hell's heart I stab at thee. This line was so powerful that a century later, Khan quoted it in Star Trek II as he died. That's how deep this phrase entered the culture. Ahab hurls his harpoon. It strikes, the line catches around his neck, and he's gone. Moby Dick rams the Pequod. The ship begins to sink. A vortex forms, pulling everything down. Sailors, masts, the harpoons, the gold doubloon, all of it. Every single person on the Pequod dies, except one. Remember Quickig's coffin? The one carved with mysterious symbols, cocked to serve as a life buoy. It shoots up from the vortex. Ishmael grabs it. He floats alone for a day and a night. The Rachel finds him. That ship, searching for its captain's lost son, instead finds another orphan. It was the devious cruising Rachel that in her retracing search after her missing children only found another orphan. Ishmael lives to tell the story. Everyone else is gone. What does it mean? Critics have argued for 170 years. Is Moby Dick God, nature, evil, indifference? The void, Melville refuses to say, and that's the point. The whale means whatever you see in him. Like the doubloon on the mast, everyone who looks finds only their own reflection. Ahab saw malevolent evil. Starbuck saw nature, deadly but not personal. Ishmael saw mystery, enigmatic and ultimately unknowable. From the Latin verax, meaning truthful, veracity asks whether something corresponds to reality. But whose reality? Ahab's burning hatred, Starbuck's practical fear, Ishmael's philosophical wonder. The novel offers all 3 and chooses none. What remains is the warning. Ahab's vindictive rage destroys not just himself, but everyone who follows him. His hatred was tenacious. It gripped him and wouldn't let go. But tenacity in service of vengeance leads only to the abyss. The sea is capricious. It does not care about human plans or human anger. Moby Dick swims on. The Pequod sinks. The whale doesn't know or care that he's become a symbol. How should we interpret this ending? Maybe the lesson is about obsession. Once Ahab named the whale as his enemy, his fate was sealed. The moment you declare total war on something larger than yourself, you've already lost. Maybe the lesson is about leadership. The crew follows Ahab to death because charisma overrides judgment. Good people enable catastrophe when they cannot refuse. Or maybe the lesson is about survival. Ishmael lives because he keeps perspective. He sees the comedy and tragedy together. He never lets hatred consume him. And some certain significance lurks in all things, Ishmael writes, else all things are little worth. And the round world itself but an empty cipher. Meaning exists, but we must find it ourselves. The whale won't tell us. Call me Ishmael. 3 words, an invitation to witness. A story that changed American literature. From hell's heart, Melville stabbed at the unknowable, and somehow he hid it. 15 words, lock them in, comprehend, to grasp the meaning fully. Prolix, using too many words, tediously lengthy, tortuous, full of twists and turns, excessively complex, stolid, calm, and dependable, but showing little emotion. Truculent, eager to fight, aggressively defiant. Malevolent, having a wish to do evil. Veracity, truthfulness, conformity to facts. Vindictive, having a strong desire for revenge. Capricious, given to sudden, unpredictable changes. Interpret, to explain the meaning of something. +5 you already know. Profound, inevitable, pervasive, tenacious, enigmatic. From hell's heart, I stab at the... Moby Dick swims on. The story survives, and so does Ishmael. Call him Ishmael.